Oh hee ha, oh hee ha, oh hee ha, ho ho. In the past, if you were going to host a potlatch, you would have sent runners. They would have taken cedar sticks to the next village, and the head of the village would have said, I have 17 people in my family that I'll bring to this potlatch. And then the runner would collect the sticks from village to village and bring them back to the person who was hosting the potlatch. The person would know who's coming, how many to prepare for, how much food to prepare, how many gifts to were required for each of the families. And many times then in our potlatching, you gave your best canoes, your best shawls, your best baskets, your best blankets. And they were all handmade. So that's how that person in that leadership position would have prepared, was to take and give away everything they could, but they gave away the best of what they had. We had our beginning with the Full Circle Journey. There was a small handful of canoes that followed the bicentennial gathering. We traveled from Skokomish around Hood Canal to Squaxin Island, or to Suquamish, and then the following year from Suquamish to Squaxin Island. And that gave us an opportunity to put kids in the water, to put children on a canoe, to understand and know what that kind of experience was. And it really was a learning process for everyone. Then the following year, in 1997, we went to the North American Indigenous Games in Victoria Harbor. We were invited to travel with the Suquamish Raven Canoe. We took a small group of people. We had probably 32. And when we left home to begin that journey, we prayed at the Puyallup Tribal Health Authority, asking for direction, asking for support, asking for a way to help our children. Then we traveled by land to Lower Elwha at Port Angeles. We had our first experience in getting ready for canoe journeys by getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning for 3 days in a row, going down to the water at the river, and the local people telling us the water's too rough, we can't leave yet. And that was our first experience in getting ready and waiting. And that's a really, really important lesson to learn on canoe journeys, is patience. And so when we were finally able to cross the straits, the fog rolled in. We had a couple of our young people on our canoe with Suquamish, and you could hear a tanker, but you couldn't see it. And you didn't know where it was. And one of our young fishermen at that time was Chester Earl. And he gave some direction to the skipper of the canoe, and they moved as quickly as they could. And as soon as they moved, the tanker went by. They were that close. They were that close. They got to shore, and it was a tremendous emotional relief. The role and the responsibility of the skipper is for the safety of everyone on the canoe, and they were that close to danger and may have not been able to help themselves if they had gotten into trouble. But it was our first traveling into Canada. We had just been able to identify ourselves with a gray t-shirt that was the remainder of the newly opened Puyallup Tribal Health Authority, had the symbol of the Health Authority fish on a gray t-shirt. We went into Victoria Harbor with all of the rest of the canoes, and I put my young people on the canoe. Then I came back to the harbor, and the security guard said, "Ma'am, your group is over here." And that's identity. That's our regalia. That's our colors. That's our dress. We may not have had our songs yet, our dances, but we had our gray t-shirts that said, "This is your group. This is Puyallup Tribe." And while we were there, we were hosted at the Songhees Big House, and we were able to tell the stories of why we were there. What did we want? So by February, by President's Day, we took a handful of people to Sauk. We visited with our chief. We visited with the master carver and the people there. And by the time we had arrived, the elders had said, "We can't sell our canoe, but we're willing to commission and make a canoe for you." And that was our agreement. They would make us a canoe. So I came home. I began to talk to our elders, our council people. I never ran into a roadblock. And in the end, our council said, "We will do this." And we're talking about $1,000 a foot to carve a 30-foot canoe. We invited the group from Sauk to come to our potlatch in Puyallup. We exchanged paddles, which is the gifting that they said they were going to carve a canoe for us, and to our tribal council. By May, we were back in Sauk with a handful of young people to do the blessing of the log that they had received to carve the canoe. So in July, 10 weeks later, we went back to Sauk. I had been back and forth several times. In order for us to have this connection of, it's like welcoming home a child. You talk and sing and share your anticipation, what you want, the love you have for this child. And so when we brought our canoe home, we had a ceremony to name the canoe. The carver was the kind of a master carver where he never put the canoe in the water. So the first time our canoe went into the water was in the Puyallup River, sort of like the birth, the opportunity to be in our river. We traveled down to the mouth, which then introduced it to the salt water, and it would have then begun to know who the people are, hear our songs, and to be able to share and gather that kind of spiritual connection that was beginning to pull our people together. The following year, in 1997, we were in La Push, and they had hosted the canoes. We were there. They potlatched all night, and again, Chester Earl said, "Shall we do this? Shall we call for the canoes to come to Puyallup?" And prior to that, the canoe journeys had been happening every 4 years, and this put forth the beginning of having a canoe journey every year. And so in 1998, we hosted 20 canoes that came here to Puyallup. The annual canoe journey in 2017 went to Campbell River. There's a talking stick that moves from the host tribe to the next tribe. So the talking stick was in Campbell River for a year while they were preparing for the canoe journey and to welcome the canoes there this summer. There were 87 canoes into Campbell River, 6 days of potlatching, sharing and celebrating each of the canoes, each of the communities. And the final night before the host community takes the floor, we extended the invitation, again using the sacred cedar, the sticks marked with 2018, hosting the Par Paddle to Puyallup as it returns for the 20th anniversary. The theme of our 2018 hosting is honoring the medicine. So the medicine being their cedar trees, our water, our plants, our animals, our fish, all of the beings that come together. So when we celebrated that night, we extended the invitation to the canoes that were there. We anticipated and planned for 10,000 people to come in 2018 to Puyallup, and more than 100 canoes. That's a lot of people, and we're 10,000 plus, 100 plus. Every day I receive phone calls that say, we're coming, what are your dates? What do we need to do to get ready? We figure we need 600 volunteers from this local community to help us out for the 6 days from July 28th to August 4th, when we welcome more than 100 canoes into our waters. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity to share in that experience for the entire community, to learn about the cultural impact our community has, the spiritual impact, that for most of us, we do this for our children. We do this to be drug and alcohol free. We do this to be a positive role model for our children, so that our children can go any place and they would know somebody, or they would know, I've been here. I went with the canoes here. This place is familiar to me. So our children aren't lost in that world where there's no hope, there's only the negativity, so that our children too have an opportunity to heal, to be able to share with and be children. So this is what we want to share with our larger community, is the growth that our people have come to, where we're going in the future, and that we will continue to do it with our songs and our dances, our language, our culture, and we'll have a great time. We look forward to everyone coming. The invitation is open. Please come share with us. Our potlatching, share with us. Meet the people that will come out from all across the Western United States to be with us, to share their culture, to share their songs, their dances, and to celebrate today.
Oh.